We can create some financial freedom. I don't have to work until I'm 65. And that kind of started my path in real estate and kind of got me to where I'm at today.
There is a new American dream. One that doesn't involve working till you're 65 before you start enjoying life. If you're someone looking for ways to regain control over your time and check off that bucket list now, you're in the right place. We share tips from experts on investing, personal finance, and mindset so that you can finally have the freedom to work less and live more. This is the Freedom Investing Podcast with your host, Chris Toribio.
What's going on, everyone? This is Chris Toribio with the Freedom Investing Podcast, and I'm so happy you're here to join us for another amazing episode. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome to the show. Please make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with our latest episodes. Moving on to today's guest, we have Jarod Alexander. Jarod is the founder of Optimal Equity Group, which was formed to help educate investors on how to achieve strong returns by investing in real estate. Jarod's responsibility is to bring vetted opportunities to investors offered by experienced real estate firms with a proven track record. Jarod is a family man who is happily married with two amazing kids currently living in Phoenix, Arizona. He's passionate about helping others achieve their financial goals and believes that real estate is one of the best ways to do so. Jarod is a limited partner in 5 syndications totaling over 1,100 units, and his knowledge and expertise allows him to recognize strong opportunities that may arise. His mission is to help people reach their full potential and live life to the fullest. Jarod, welcome to the show. Before we dive into it, give us a quick 2-minute rundown of who you are, your background, and where you are in your journey to achieving time freedom.
All right. Thank you, Chris. Thanks for having me. Just a quick 2-minute rundown. I come from a family of entrepreneurial family, and my mom, or I should start with my grandfather. He started a flooring company back when he was 30 years old. And what I later found out is, so he started this flooring company, which ended up passing down to my mom, and I actually got into the flooring business myself. But what I found out is he actually bought the property. So there's 3 commercial buildings on the property. He bought 2 and then ended up developing the 3rd one. And at the age of 50 years old, ended up retiring as a result of the passive income that came from this commercial building. And, so I learned that later down the road, but, it always got me thinking, all right, I want to retire at the age of 50. I want to do this, but really wasn't quite sure how. And started out, of course, in the flooring business, which I still am today. And I just watched, everybody told me that get a job. I came right out of high school, right into the flooring industry. So it was just get a job and work as hard as you can and save up as much money for retirement as possible, right? I really wasn't introduced to real estate at that point. I mean, on a low level, besides, again, I learned this later on in life with my grandfather after getting into real estate. But, my mom owned a single family or 2, but they were always headaches. She was always complaining about it. So I was like, oh, do I want to do this? Do I not? But then about 3 years ago, so I'm originally from Fayetteville, North Carolina, moved out here to Arizona about 8 years ago, and ended up, as we were kind of talking about before, Chris introduced that book, The Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which totally changed my perspective on things and got me like, okay, hey, we can create some financial freedom. I don't have to work until I'm 65. And that kind of started my path in real estate and kind of got me to where I'm at today. Yeah.
That's fantastic. And it sounds like your real estate experience really spans the period of 2 generations, right? You said your grandfather owned that flooring company, which you subsequently found that he also owns the buildings that supply the company, as well as potentially other companies, which allowed him to retire earlier. And then you also got to experience your mom's experience with real estate, owning those 2 single family rentals and them always being headaches for her over the period of those times that she was managing those. And so fast forward, you're moving to Phoenix and you realize that you can do something else other than working a 9 to 5. I know that you had mentioned you were working for your grandfather's flooring company at the time, but I guess what was your life looking like when you moved to Phoenix?
Well, so I pretty much just started fresh when I came out here. I didn't know nobody. My grandfather actually lives out here in Arizona. So whenever he retired, he's been out here for the past 20, 25 years or so. And so I came out here and to be with him, but just there's a lot more opportunity out here in Arizona. I'm from a smaller town back there. And kind of the goal was back in Fayetteville, it was like, so now my mom owns the business, is all right, work in the flooring business. And then eventually it was going to pass down to me and take that over and kind of go from there. Right. Well, the opportunity got presented to come out here to Arizona. Again, came out here with just really a duffel bag, started fresh, didn't know nobody, and kind of got some jobs in the flooring business and kind of worked my way up the ladder here. And now I'm actually, again, like I was mentioned before, I'm still doing sales currently for my W-2. And, but yeah, that's kind of what led me out here. And now, so probably 5 years into being out here in Arizona, again, ended up starting to go to local meetups and kind of build my network in the real estate world. Yeah.
Gotcha. And at this point in time, you invested as a limited partner in 5 syndications. So, in your role when it came to investing in real estate, it was really passive. Was there any active component of real estate investing prior to jumping into those syndications?
Yes. So before we actually bought a single family out of state, and I spent 2 years just really in that analysis paralysis phase. I was going to meetups, talking to individuals that were doing it. And actually I had a good mentor of mine, which I'll probably talk more about too, Randy. And, I was kind of just following his lead. And the opportunity got presented right after COVID, or actually during COVID. We, again, being from Phoenix, it was really hard once, real estate just rocketed, right? Prices, everything, as we all know. And so it was hard to find a deal that penciled. Not saying they weren't out there, but it was just really tough without really hitting the pavement and finding, the right deal. So we ended up going out of state. I found now if you want to go ahead and go into the deal, Chris, or
absolutely. Yeah. Let's talk about this first deal that you had.
Yeah. So again, out of state, it was in Kansas City, Missouri. Now, mind you, I've never bought a house before. The house I live in now, my wife already had. I moved in with her, right, and just lived in apartments prior to that. So, I'm buying it from a turnkey rental company. Or, so they sell you and then have a property management team at the other end that, manages it for you. So I've never seen the house. It's a 1920 build. And I'm representing myself on this deal. So there was no realtor involved or anything. So I'm getting, and you can imagine what comes back on an inspection report for a 1920s house, right? And so I'm going through all this, trying to negotiate with the seller, and ended up, closing on the deal. And it was great. The deal penciled for 200 cash flow per month, after all my expenses, property management fee, figured in CapEx, vacancy, all that stuff. And it was going good until about 3 weeks. And then I learned about sump pumps. And in Kansas City, most of the houses have basements, so they have sump pumps. And there went a $4,000 bill right there. And which hit me, which hurt at first, but it was just a great learning experience. I was like, all right, next time I'm going to be more aware, maybe do a little bit more research on the city and the houses and what they usually require, as far as sump pumps go, and things like that. So, but fast forward, it ended up being a great learning experience, like I mentioned, and we ended up selling it a year later and made a profit. So we bought it for $75,000 and ended up selling it for just under $95,000 Just a little over a year later, of course, to avoid the capital, get the capital gains tax. So, yeah.
Absolutely. So that's fantastic. So even with your first deal, purchasing it out of state, never seeing the property, running to this $4,000 repair bill, you still managed to generate, at least a 20% return on your investment just through the capital gains alone. And that doesn't include all the cash flow and all the depreciation and the loan pay down that occurred during that time. And so I guess apart from, taking advantage of the current market conditions and being able to generate that profit on sale, what are some of the things that you did after you sold that property? From being that active investor, did you purchase more deals in that area? Did you then jumping into as a passive investor? I guess, what did it look like after that?
So for me, this is kind of a running joke too, in my family and my relationship is I'm like the gas and my wife is the brake, right? So once I get going, I'm like, all right, we got to do another and another and another, right? And prior to that deal, I had to do some convincing for my wife to get on board with all this. She's like, hey, we're good where we're at right now. We make good money, and I'm like, no, but you don't understand. We got to do this, right, to get to this level, right? And so after that first deal, I'm like, let's do another, right? Let's do another. And honestly, so I was, penciling deals, had some other offers go out, and they just weren't working out. And, either the inspections came back wrong, house was misrepresented, again, because I'm buying out of state. So it's not like I can drive and just, go inspect these properties myself. And so, but then I did the math, Chris, and the goal is, and doing this is to replace my W-2 income so we can be financially free, right? And I mean, I would have had to buy 60, if I was to stick to single family, it would probably have to be between 60, 70 plus houses to get to my goal. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. You mean I got to go through that process I just went through 60, 70 more times, And it started changing my mindset a little. And I got exposed to actually my buddy, Randy, started looking at multifamily. And so my poor wife, I go from a $75,000 house to go into a multifamily networking event. Coming back is, honey, we should buy, there's these $30 million properties, we can go in and raise the money, you know what I mean? Right. Do a syndication. Oh my God. She was just freaking out like, oh my God, are you serious? Right. And so anyways, fast forward a little bit, I explored a couple of different areas in real estate, Airbnb, short-term rentals, and nothing was just quite working out. And then we came across the apartment syndication model where these operators would go in, buy a C or B class asset. And what they would do is what they call a value add. And they would go and fix up the property, force the appreciation in the apartments, and then sell it for a high return. And essentially it's flipping apartments, right? And so I said, oh, well, I can get some experience with being on the limited partner side and just, putting, a minimum, whatever the operator was, the minimum requirement that they allowed into that property, and essentially could double my money in 2 to 5 years. And I'm like, wow. And my first deal, Chris, I spent a couple hours reading all the PPMs, which is the big document you got to sign. And of course, watching the pitch deck and, reviewing the property and all that. But in 2 to 3, probably maybe 4 hours of due diligence in that, next thing you know, I was wiring $25,000 to the operator, and I was done. And 90 days later, I'm getting a check for not too much less than what I was from that single family,
Right, exactly. And yeah. Let's kind of compare that a little bit, right? So your first deal as an active investor, you were investing out of state, you never saw the property, you were hit with some sump pump issues, you were managing the tenants, I'm assuming too, or we were at least managing the property manager who was managing the tenant, right?
Yeah.
And then you had to go through the process of selling it, a year later. And so in comparison to your experience as a limited partner in this syndication, what did that look like for you once you submitted that $25,000 check? What else did you have to do, if at all?
And you said it at the end, if at all, nothing. Like, I get monthly reports, the operator, and it depends on the operator you with, either you get monthly distributions, quarterly, but with this operator, I was getting monthly distributions. They actually started, then typically they say 90 days from the close of the property, you start getting returns, or your monthly cash flow. And it was actually like 65, 70. So, they were ahead of schedule there. And then I just literally am, I get a weekly or a monthly update. I can call the operator anytime. I got a cell phone. He answers some questions if I need something, and that's it. That's it. And so fast forward, now I went to 5. I'm in 5 syndications, like you had mentioned. And I stuck to the Phoenix market. So it's kind of cool. I actually, in some of these, like I've seen, but I don't like go out to all of them and look at, once you trust the operator, I mean, you're investing in the operator, someone like and trust. But it's cool because in flooring, I'm driving all around the valley, what they call here in Phoenix. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I invested in that deal. I'm a part owner in that, and so it's kind of cool. Yeah.
That is pretty neat.
Yeah.
And so you're invested in 5 syndications now. And it sounds like, have you at any point been able to scale back from your W-2? I guess, what is the plan here moving forward when it comes to continually investing into these syndications?
So I was I was talking with a buddy not too long ago on this. And at that time I had a 3-year goal, right? To get out of my W-2, or at least have the option to get out of my W-2 in 3 years. Well, a year has gone by, so I'm on a 2-year track now, which is a big, audacious goal. But, kind of one thing I've learned from being in some of the coaching programs and stuff is, set the bar high. And I got this book right here by Jason Dries, which is part of the program, but it's Do the Impossible, right? And so it's some concepts. It's kind of like shoot for the stars, land on the moon type of deal, right? But it's a mindset shift that anything is possible as long as I have the goal and set the strategy up, to take the action to get to the goal.
Absolutely. I love that. I was also part of the Jason Dries coaching community as well. And those calls definitely force you to kind of reframe your mindset. And, they were calling it an equivalent to like brain surgery, right? Except instead of a physical brain surgery, they were just rewiring the current structure that's in there right now and just changing the way you think, right? And forcing you to think bigger, forcing you to, again, think a little bit more outside of your comfort zone. And in return, the level of growth that you get a chance to experience is going to be exponentially greater than you otherwise would if you stuck within your comfort zone, as you were mentioning.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, right now we're invested in 5 syndications. Apart from that, I want to kind of take a step back here and go back to your grandfather's property, right? So your grandfather's property, he owned that flooring company. He also owned the business, right? And then your mom had the 2 rental properties. What does that look like for them now? I know that you said that your grandfather now lives in Arizona, but do they still own all of those stuff, or did he sell all of those, and did your mom sell all of those properties as well?
No, so actually, my grandfather still owns the property, and has been out here in Arizona for the past 20 years and self-manages like over 20 plus tenants from 3,000 miles away. So he's the property manager. I mean, he handles everything. And then my mom, and then my mom, and it's really even, I have more of an appreciation for it too, being in, just having that experience with a single family and kind of being in this for 2 to 3 years. I'm like, wow, you're doing all this yourself? Like, that's amazing, and still being profitable, right? And then, my mom actually owns the 2 single families still. So yeah, she's still managing those, and she self-manages those herself as well. And actually, now that I got into it, I was like, "Hey, mom, you interested in selling one of them?" You know, right,
right,
but
exactly.
not yet. She's not ready to let go yet, so we'll see. But
Absolutely. So
yeah,
that's the thing here, right? Is like, there are so many different ways to be profitable when it comes to investing in real estate, right? You can own a business that's secured by a piece of real estate. That's one thing that we've been encountering a lot from some of the conversations that we've been having are actually business owners who also own the real estate that their business is leasing to. And there are different business models that this can work, right? You can go through the assisted living route where you can own assisted living operations and rent that to the facility that you have built purposefully for that type of operations. You can own a restaurant. You can lease it to the retail or mixed use type of property that also leases to that business. Um, and just a variety of different things. My parents have a home health agency, and they also lease to the building that they own as well. And so, if you take the business component and the real estate component to it, you really get the best of both worlds, right? Because you have control of yourself, who is the tenant, but you also own the land and secure that real estate that's behind it. And again, you get the appreciation, get the loan pay down, you get the tax benefits that you otherwise would not be able to get if you were just leasing that out. So
yeah,
it's an important thing to consider. And again, your
absolutely.
mom on top of that too. I'm sure long term, at the end of the day, yes, there may be some headaches here and there, but if you hold on to it long enough, they say real estate is very forgiving and that like every deal is profitable. It depends on how long you want to hold it, right? So long term, over the course of time, you still get the benefit of all of those things of owning that piece of real estate.
And you know what, real quick on that, Chris, is I just want to share because this really helped me getting started in the real estate space. Is you always hear kind of I guess you can call them negative thinkers, right? Of they heard from a friend their experience with real estate is I don't want to get those calls in the middle of the night changing toilets or dealing with the headaches. I mean, I literally got a call in the middle of the night from the property manager, like the tenant was out of state, came home, no water, everything was shut. I'm like, well, what do you want me to do? Right. And so, and, but I had to kind of go through and, help him come up with a solution. And they put it this, actually, it was, from Bigger Pockets. I think I heard it, but anyways, it was, you deal in my W-2, right? I have problems that come up with customers and I have to come up with a solution, right? So this is what I do in my day job. Like, I mean, or really, I mean, anything you do, you gotta, problems are going to arise and it's your responsibility to come up with a solution to that, and having that. So bring that into the real estate investing is like, it's a business, right? When you look at this, it's a business that's helping you achieve your goals. Well, the problems come up. Let's just find a solution and work towards it. And then next thing you know, I'm still collecting a check at the end of the month, right? And so, yeah, it was definitely a mind shift for me because you definitely hear those negative thinkers. It's like, oh, I'm not doing that, but it's really the same
Absolutely. And
thing you're
then
doing during the day.
right. And that's the thing, right? Like at the end of the day, one of the keys to success is having the ability to solve problems, right? If you think about, Elon Musk, you think about Jeff Bezos, you think about Bill Gates, all of these people, the reason why they're successful in their business is because that business solved a problem that either people already recognized or people didn't realize that they had until they had a solution to it. And I think that if you learn to accept that when it comes to being successful, maybe you just have to focus on helping solve problems or adding value. And then people will be able to, you'll get compensated based off the value that you're able to provide. Right. And so the same thing goes for real estate. You have someone that's in there that you're providing them housing, you're providing them a place to live and a place to be. And yes, they may come with some issues such as having to, replace a leak or having to replace a sump pump, whatever that may be. But ultimately, you have someone who is, um, you're providing them a place to live, a quality place to live, and in return, they're helping increase the equity that you have in that property, that ownership you have in that property. And over time, if you're able to systematize this, you can be very, very successful and have something that you could pass down to your children, or being able to free up that time that you otherwise didn't have with your W-2 job.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you hit on it there too with systematizing it, right? which is definitely one thing I'm working on. With the business I just started, Optimal Equity Group is, reason being I started was really to help give back and help others, have the experience that I was, presented with, doubling your money in 2 to 5 years and just providing an alternative investment vehicle, other than the stock market. But yeah, just once you get those systems in place, things just flow, right? And you can do that with any area, with Airbnb, short-term rental, with the long-term rental, apartment syndications. There's just putting the systems in place and taking the time to systematize everything.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Well, we're coming towards the end of today's show, but before we finish, it is time for the Freedom 5. These are 5 questions that we ask every guest on our show, starting with the most important question. What is your why? What is the underlying motivation behind everything it is that you do?
So my family is my why. For me, a little personal, I grew up without my dad in my life, and once I had kids, I wanted to make sure I was there and present for them and just be the dad that I never had, right? So I want to make sure I'm at every ball game or, do my best to just be present in every area of their life, right? So that's one of my biggest whys, and just to create more opportunities to achieve the financial freedom too. I think with the financial freedom, there's just so many other opportunities that open up that you can experience, and I've had some situations in these past 3 years that really helped me reevaluate like what's important in life and what's not, right? And I think, man, just live life and enjoy it to the best of your ability, right? Life's too short, right? And so that's my why and the main driving factor.
Absolutely. And that's definitely a driving factor of this podcast. I got to tell you, Jarod, because you can always make more money. You can definitely never make more time. So as you're saying, just live life. All right. Number 2, What book has had the largest influence on your life?
So again, like we were talking about before, besides Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I was, through being exposed to real estate, I've come across a very inspirational speaker called Ed Milet. And he actually just wrote The Power of One More this past year. And it's just a challenge to do one more rep at the gym, work 1 more hour on your business, or do that one more thing that's going to get you to the next level. And so that's been a huge, huge impact, at least in the past year for me, since I've read that. Just, I'm in the gym and I'm like, all right, one more, or I just always have that in the back of my head. Right. And so, that's been a huge impact on me.
I love that. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of times we're overloaded with these goals and aspirations that we want to achieve, over the course of the year, quarter, whatever that may be. But oftentimes you just want to focus on getting 1% better every day, right? Because if you get 1% better every day, by the end of a year, you're 365% better than you were when you just started. That's over 3 times, almost 4 times better than where you were when you just started. So it can sound very overwhelming with these goals and aspirations, but if it comes down to it on a day-by-day basis, 1% better every day.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, third question we have. What is the most impactful thing, whether it's a piece of technology, a habit, or a person, that has helped in freeing up your time?
So I'll start off. So with my good friend Randy, it's probably been the most, as far as me getting into this space. He actually recommended that I read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which changed my mindset, and then just has been a great mentor to me on this journey. So that's probably been the most impactful thing. And then, which has also led me into coaching, and just changing my mindset. So that's been huge for me.
Love it. And for those who don't know, Randy was a guest on our show. His name is Randy Smith, and he was on episode 26 of our podcast, Massive Income to Passive Income with Randy Smith. So make sure to check that one out. Fourth question we have here. What is the number one piece of advice you would give to anyone else looking to achieve more control over their time?
So yeah, I was thinking about this, and so just to go after your dreams, like we were kind of talking about, life is just too short to settle, I believe. And I heard a couple little sayings, and I'll share them real quick. Is this one actually was from Jake and Gino? It's called "Education plus action equals results." Right. So I get the education, and then I get the action playing around that. And as a result of that, just like Chris was mentioning, changing that 1% every single day gets me to my goals and to the results. And then for me, really, this has been coming up lately is I got to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Right. And, it's, I just, yeah, I heard it actually from the coaching and Jason Drees, leaning into the overwhelm, right? Because the overwhelm and stress, I mean, it's easy to kind of it attacks you, and, just kind of leaning into that, embracing it. And I believe God gives us nothing more than what we can handle. Right. And so, and then the last saying here is, if you do what everyone else does, you will have what everyone else has. Right. And when I heard that hit me. It's like, I don't want to be like everyone else. I want to get to that next level. So
I love that. That's great. Yeah, those are all great pieces of advice. We do say get comfortable feeling uncomfortable all the time here on the podcast. And it's definitely something that we live by as well. In addition to educate yourself and then taking action, right? Because if you educate yourself but never take action, all you are is just a well-educated person, right? But really the true education comes from taking action, making mistakes, which are not mistakes, by the way, they're just learning experiences. And if you put yourself in a situation where you're constantly learning, you're only going to be that much more better at the end of it. What is the best way for our listeners to get in contact with you?
LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, you just Google my name or search my name there. You can find me on my website, optimalequitygroup.com. On Instagram, Jarod_Alexander 2489, or you can email me at Jarod@optimalequitygroup.com.
Love that. Well, Jarod, tons of really great information today. I really liked how you talked about your background and how you transitioned to real estate investing, coming from a background where your grandfather was in real estate and flooring, and then your mom also owned 2 rental properties, to you purchasing that property out of state and then finally selling it and jumping into syndications. I love how you talked about the mindset shift that you had to overcome when it came to first purchasing that single family rental to begin with, and then from there shifting into understanding what it is you really wanted and investing passively from there. I also liked how you talked about all the different things that you had to do to position yourself so that way, moving forward from there, you can really help yourself as well as help other people get their full potential and live life to the fullest. I just want to thank you again for being a fantastic guest on our show. I look forward to remaining in touch.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris.
Now, if you like this show and want to learn more about how we can help you free up your time through passive real estate investments, check out www.freedominvesting.com. Make sure to subscribe to our monthly newsletter and schedule an introductory call with our team. We also have a free 7-day course on what passive real estate investing is and how to get started so that you can start your journey towards earning back more time in your life. To all of our amazing listeners here on the Freedom Investing Podcast, my name is Chris Toribio. Till next time.